Welcome to Affording College with Aaron Green, founder and president of College Liftoff.
Thanks, Deep Throaty Guy. Okay, so here we are at the peak of when students are hearing back from colleges, and I'm sure we have parents and a lot of students that are freaking out saying, how do I know if I'm going to get in this school? How do I know if I'm going to get in that school? I haven't heard back, this and that. Somebody else is taking our slot. Our kid is the best thing ever. Let's talk a little bit about that and admissions and how they really work for colleges, because it's a vastly bigger puzzle than it seems. Because the national headlines will always read that colleges are going after a certain amount of this demographic or this is particularly troubling for admissions and this and that. Let's really break down admissions and talk about this, because I think it'll do a lot of good just to have some knowledge on how schools make decisions for kids going off to college, or how they choose the students they want to go off to. I'm going to use a university here in town. I'm going to use Ohio State for a little bit of this. Ohio State is a great example where they now can boast a sub 50% acceptance rate, which sounds great academically and all this, and that OSU has improved academically over the years, but they're not that much better to the point where, they can boast themselves in the higher ranks of like the top 10 schools of the country. Really what we want to be able to look at is take a look at more of, actually, I'm going to give you an example. Let's take a good look at like when I applied to go to Ohio State. I applied to go to Ohio State back in 2001. At that point, we had 19,000 applicants. They accepted in 12,000 students to fill 7,000 slots, roughly. So they knew about 5,000 students would go somewhere else. That gives you, if you allow in 12,000 students, that's about a 65% acceptance rate. Last year, OSU had over 50,000 applicants. Over 50,000. They had to allow in 22,000 students to fill 7,000 slots. So they knew 14 to 15,000 students would go somewhere else. The problem inevitably is with this, because it's not that they're taking a certain demographic or anything like that. In fact, if you look at OSU's minority number breakdown, they're roughly 6% African American, 6% Latino, 6% Asian American, which are actually not even representative of the state, to be honest with you. But what we're really looking at is the fact that OSU doesn't know who's serious. They don't know if the kid in Phoenix who with a 3.9 and a 34 in the ACT is any more serious than the kid that's down the street in the same neighborhood as Ohio State with similar or a little bit less grades, or any more serious than the other. So they have to be able to kind of pick and choose for what's going on there. The same problem exists for the student. They don't know who's serious about it on the same side, and it makes it very convoluted for both sides of it. So with that, you want to take a really good look at how is a school going to make the decision there? Take a look at OSU. They're a public school. Most of the colleges, public schools in this country, have about 80% of their population from within their own state. OSU is in the same boat up until a few years ago, when the state of Ohio actually asked them to cap tuition, like every other school in the state, because tuition's running rampant. People are going nuts about it. But OSU said, fine, but let us go from 80% down to 65% of our population come from within the state. And also, on top of that, they took their international population from 8% to 11%, because they make even more money on top of that from the out-of-state students. So now we have a much bigger grasp, where OSU, as an example, wants a footprint in every county in the state of Ohio. They want a student from every single state in the union, and now a much bigger international population. And then on top of all of that, they can't bring in 5,000 business students. There are 177 majors to fill. All of these things come into play when schools are looking at admissions, and then they'll look at your kids' grades. And that's when we actually get down to that. So when you're questioning how to really do this and how is the school making this decision, how did my kid not get in, there are a lot of things that go into play with all of this. And the best thing I can tell you, the best advice I can give you is really just do your homework. Take the time to really be able to pick the schools that make the most sense for your student based off of academic interests, based off where they are academically, career-wise, financially, fit. All those pieces matter. And in the end, good college visits do matter as well. There's a term that's being tossed around called dedicated interest. And really what that term means is that a school can recognize that you're actually interested in them by seeing that you've shown up, not just in the campus tour, but you sat down with faculty members from the admissions department and also from the academic department that the student's interested in. And they've basically networked a little bit, and they could document that. A lot of the smaller schools do it all over the place. The bigger schools are having a little bit of a harder time to catch one of that, only because it's such a bigger animal to work within. But that is vastly important. So there are ways to navigate through this better and just finding better schools for our students, and that's the approach you want to take.
College Liftoff can help empower you to make college affordable for your student. If you want to learn more about your options, Aaron will be responding directly to your emails. Email him a question at aaron@collegeliftoff.com. Thanks for listening to Affording College with Aaron Green of College Liftoff. If you'd like more information, visit collegeliftoff.com.
Circle270media.com